Congratulations on surviving another year and welcome back to Twisted Metal Month. This year is shaping up to be just as exciting as the first year, so hop in your favorite vehicle of destruction and buckle up. This year we are starting off strong with Twisted Metal Black, one of the most popular releases in the whole franchise. But to get here, we had to slog through the muck and the mire. Twisted Metal's 3 and 4 were taken over by in-house studio 989, the studio that worked on various sports and extreme sports games before taking the Twisted Metal helm from Single Track, the original team that created the series. In my opinion, Twisted Metal 4 was, and still is, the worst game in the series by far, taking bottom-of-the-barrel ideas and wonky mechanics and physics and plopping them on a disc. After just scraping by the bare minimum of earning a greatest hits release, Sony decided a change was necessary to keep the series moving in a more positive direction. Out of the ashes of the defunct single-track studio came a new team of developers called Incognito Entertainment. Scott Campbell, one of the lead developers behind Twisted Metals 1 and 2, founded the company in 1999, recruiting many of the original developers for the new studio. In the year 2000, Incog signed a publishing agreement with Sony, who would ultimately place the future of Twisted Metal with the same team that created it in the first place. All eyes were on the PS2, meaning there was a heavy focus on developing games for that platform. According to Jaffe and Campbell, much of the industry was leaning toward bright colors and cartoony graphics. Instead of following market trends, Incognito went in a completely opposite direction, creating a grimdark world of horror-based characters locked inside of an asylum. Jaffe said Sony pushed back on content that was deemed too extreme and much of it was cut from the game. Take for instance the Preacher character.
There were things I wanted to do in Black that they wouldn't let me do, and some of it was just so... Okay, some of it was valid, right? We had a scene with the Preacher who thought he was performing an exorcism, but he was crazy. He was really being asked to perform a baptism, and so he drowns this. Well, we had this great shot of, and I have kids, right? I love kids. I'm a nice, gentle guy, but it's a fantasy, right? And in the scene, there was this great shot of him pushing this little, 5-day-old into the baptismal, into the water, and his little arms and chubby little legs are kicking around in there, and he's just like shoving the thing down there, because in his mind, he's like exorcising this demon.
What is left is still pretty eerie, making me incredibly curious about what has never been seen by the light of day. Characters range from being inspired by other media to being unique twists on well-tread tropes. 10 characters are unlocked by default. Returning are characters like Needles Kane driving the Sweet Tooth ice cream truck, of course. Darkseid returns for the first time since Twisted Metal 3, but driving it is newcomer Dollface. Mr. Grimm returns, only this time he is a Vietnam veteran who is forced to eat his friend after being trapped in a pit. By the end of the game, Grimm realizes he actually craves human flesh and becomes a pseudo-Grim Reaper as he hunts for his next meal. The Yellow Jacket taxicab is finally back after being cut from Twisted Metals 2 through 4, and is now driven by Charlie Kane's son, who wonders where his dad is. There are plenty of other returning cars that have been staple from the beginning with new drivers behind the wheel, but 3 new vehicles are added and their drivers are completely new as well. No Face is a character whose eyes, nose, and mouth are removed. A plastic surgeon steals his face after losing money betting on him to win a boxing match. His wish for winning the contest is revenge. Billy Ray Stillwell was a farmer until one day a plane spewing toxic chemicals leaves his fields barren, and after returning home he finds his wife with the pilot. Billy wants to get revenge on him. Lastly is the Preacher mentioned earlier. He wants the demon that lives inside of him to be purged because of all the terrible things it has made him do. Calypso, per usual, is running the show, only he doesn't do much talking this time around. Instead, the contestants describe him in their own words, adding to the mythicality of this version of the character. At first, I thought Calypso owned and operated Blackfield Asylum in order to cultivate his own cookie jar of diseased people to draw from. However, in one of the stories, it is revealed that he had to kill all the guards to make his way to the contestants and release them. After letting the people loose, the world of Twisted Metal Black starts to take shape. As opposed to previous games, Twisted Metal Black takes place in one connected city known as Midtown, where each arena takes up a different region of the town. The first arena is always the junkyard, but as the player moves through the rounds, they are given the opportunity to choose which levels to play in. The power of the PS2 allowed for more realized arenas. In the documentary The Dark Past, creative director Kellen Hatch said he's always loved the suburb level in Black because the PC-rendered vision was more or less fully realized in the full game thanks to the new power they could access. And I would agree, there are some excellent levels here. My favorite is also that suburban level. It feels huge because of the mountains with winding streets and the carnival area complete with a destructible Ferris wheel that rolls away if you shoot it. Some of the other highlights were the abandoned skyscraper with the satanic church. There is also this incredible level on the prison transport boat where you start off in a cell with 2 other drivers, but as time goes on you're released from the cell and have full access to the ship, and then the boat docks and lets you get off and fight on land. It's incredibly dynamic, and you can tell a huge scope was the focus in a lot of these levels, and this one is the perfect example of that. And now that the game is on PS2 and saving your game is a given, you have new ways of unlocking characters. Instead of using cheat codes, you have to explore different environments in order to find where they are hidden. For instance, manslaughter is hidden in the hull of the transport boat. You have to destroy a shipping container to make a ramp, and then shoot the side of the boat, revealing a secret room. To get Axel, you have to choose the freeway level to fight on, angle yourself in a specific direction, and shoot down the crane outside of the playable space. There is so much to like about this game, and I get why it is so many people's favorite. However, I think there is one area where I think this game trips up a little bit: the gameplay. I thought I was rusty after a year of not playing Twisted Metal. By the end of last year's video, I was blasting through tournaments no problem with basically any character I wanted. But when I started playing Black, I found it so difficult to line up shots. The vehicles felt really slippery to control and turn, almost feeling like I was out of control. But then after listening to Jaffe talk about Black, I realized that maybe I wasn't so off the mark after all.
So what I was in love with on Twisted Metal Black was the world. And I think because of that, the gameplay actually suffered. It was too hard. It wasn't creative enough. We really tied ourselves up being forced to every level having the same color palette of browns and blacks and grays and clouds in the sky rolling by. And I think the core experience, the interactive experience of that game really suffered because of it.
In The Dark Past, Jaffe said by the time the team was working on Black, he was bored of the gameplay loop. Instead, he focused solely on making the atmosphere and characters great. The gameplay is not bad, just to be clear. It just feels very different from the games before and feels a little bit less precise. I'd even chalk it up to my personal preference. The healing station from Twisted Metal 1 return and work twice per round while smaller bits of health can be picked up and respawn periodically. It creates a bit of strategy for the player to decide whether or not they want to go for the small bit of health now or use one of the 2 chances to restore all of it. Another welcome change was the directional button combo attacks you can use to freeze enemies, shoot napalm, go invisible, and do other things as well. Black was pretty popular and reviewed well, but it never received a sequel. Development did start on a follow-up called Twisted Metal Harbor City. There were ambitious ideas for an entirely interconnected world as a battleground, but the game was eventually scrapped. We can look at a few of the levels that were being worked on as part of the Twisted Metal Head-On Extra Twisted Edition. A portion of content called Twisted Metal Lost allows you to play through the levels, but we will get to those later when we get to Head-On. Twisted Metal Black is awesome. Outside of the gameplay feeling pretty different from previous games, it's easily one of the best games in the series. I'll continue to keep playing it for the incredible atmosphere, the horror elements, and the compelling and weird stories the characters present. If you're a Twisted Metal fan, you probably have already played this, but if you haven't, you really need to.